Hey guys, Clone Guy here, and today I have a quick preview for you guys for Update 4.8, which is supposed to be launching tomorrow, Tuesday, the 18th. Now, this hasn't been announced on their website yet, but it's been pretty much confirmed that this is coming, and we're looking at all their stats here. Now, all these stats are probably going to change. It's console. It's what they've been doing lately. Every time they release a tank, the stats change, specifically rate of fire, and mobility. That's been kind of what they've been hitting pretty hard in in their past updates when they release a new vehicle. The armor usually stays the same, and the gun handling usually pretty much stays the same. It's just usually the mobility or the rate of fire. And in these cases, from what I heard, it's going to be the rate of fire. So we should be able to look at everything else and be like, okay, that should be the same. For instance, the mobility on these tanks should be about what they are here now. So that's good. So this mobility will take into account. The gun depression will take into account. The survivability will take into account. It's just these numbers up here we won't take into account. The DPM numbers. Everything else should be the same. So we're going to start at tier 5. I don't care about the lower tiers. Though I have to let you know when these come out, I'm going to be starting a road to tier 10. And I'm going to be streaming every time I'm playing these tanks. Or at least recording. And we'll be starting at tier 1 and working our way all the way up the line. So that's exciting. But we're going to start at tier 5. Nothing too special. Actually, this is pretty special. I'm not going to lie. 135 millimeters of penetration at tier 5 base is really good. And so is 135 standard damage. Rate of fire, 12 rounds a minute means it's a 5-second reload. Meaning you can get this down to like 3.8 seconds or something like that. So this is actually really good. That sounds really good. But of course the layout of this tank, this thing is huge. It looks like a tier 5 T28. So it's huge. It gets hit, but it does have 10 degrees of gun depression. Even over these weird cupolas on the front, you actually do have 10 degrees of gun depression over these as well. The turret will get some bounces, but otherwise this tank is it's an average tier 5. Other than the gun, that's an amazing gun at tier 5. And the mobility wise, well, 10 degrees of gun depression, which we already mentioned. Where's that right here? That's great. Aim time 2.5, that's average. Dispersion 0.38, that's pretty much average. All this is average. Engine power to weight is this is actually pretty good. Almost 19 at tier 5. That's pretty good. 56. So this is going to be a pretty mobile tank. So that's nice. Now the 40 TP. This thing gets an 88 millimeter, I believe. Yeah, here it is. And well, look at this. 240 alpha, 156 pen. That's pretty nice rate of fire. 7 rounds a minute. Not too much DPM. So that's the downside of this tank. It's got a really good gun, but it doesn't reload as quickly as... Wow, they don't have this? Well, we can't really look at its upper plate, but we can look at everything else. It's got 8 degrees of gun depression all the way around, except the very back. The turret, once again, is going to kind of bounce some shots, but not too many. As you can see, it'll be great against tier 5s, the turret. But as you can see, there's not really too many good angles on this turret, so it's gonna get killed to the turret unless you're fighting 5s and 4s. But as we saw, the tier 5 version could penetrate that turret. Moving on to tier 6 right away. Actually, no, real quick, let's get to the mobility. This thing goes 50, and it has only 11 horsepower per ton. Holy cow, that's what I heard about this tank too. This is a slow medium. A lot of people don't like this tank on PC, and so if they do anything to this tank, okay, the upper plate is 90, pretty angled, so you might get some bounces off of this, actually, considering the tier 7 only goes up 10 millimeters, and then another 10, and then another 10, and then 40. That's exciting. But yeah, it looks like a... Oh, view range, 350 on the tier 5 is pretty good, 360 on the tier 6 is average, so there's that as well. We didn't mention. But this tank doesn't look like it's going to be the gem of the line. Moving on to tier 7, once again, it doesn't really look that great. The DPM goes up again. Each one of these DPM goes up, which is good. That's what I like. 192 pen, 320 alpha, so it's a slightly worse gun than the T29s. That's fair enough. Rate of fire, it's going to be 5.45 rounds a minute, 11 seconds. Get that down to probably about 11.5. Sorry, 9.5. Probably almost 9 seconds. You can get this down to. Not bad. Carries plenty of ammo, that's good, which these also carry plenty of ammo, so don't worry about those. And aim time is actually pretty good. It's the best out of all of these. So 2.3 on this kind of a gun is actually really nice. You can put, like, if you put enhanced gun length drive, because I doubt this thing gets vertical stabilized, if you put enhanced gun length drive, you could probably get this down to like 1.88 second aim time, which is insane. So that's nice. 0.4 dispersion is actually, I think, better than the T-29s. I think the T-29s is 0.41, so that's nice. 20 degrees of elevation you're going to see throughout, and 8 degrees also throughout. 35, but it's got almost 17 horsepower per ton. So this is going to get up and go at its top speed of 35 pretty reliably. Good turret, 170. Hull armor is not the greatest, 100, but so is the T-29s. But the T-29 has a short hull, and this thing has 1,200 hit points. So it's got less hit points than some of the mediums at tier 10 or at tier 7. But if we take a look at the armor, this is going to bounce 6s pretty reliably. The turret is really nice. This is going to bounce pretty much 7s and 8s really well. It does have a cupola, but it's a short cupola. Actually, but you can go through the top part that's angled and the lower part. So that's something to get a look out for. The cupola's not the greatest, but it does have 8 degrees of gun depression. As soon as you use 8 degrees of gun depression on this tank, this upper plate still is defeatable by tier 8s, believe it or not. It's not the greatest upper hull, and some tier 7s can still go through this, but it really helps hiding that cupola. And as you can see, this tank, this becomes almost reliable against some tier 9s. Some of the mediums, like T-54 not shooting heat, you can kind of bounce off of your turret now, so that's pretty nice. This tank can definitely do some work when it's hiding its hull. And then, of course, it has side armor, a little bit of side armor now. I mean, 50 millimeters isn't the greatest, but it is enough to bait some shots into your side, as long as they're not 152s. You can get some bounces. I wouldn't suggest side scraping with this tank, because as you can see, the front is very fat, and coming around a corner they can still see right here, and you would have to go all the way to an angle. Even this still isn't enough, and now they can go through your side. Not yet, actually. This is still a 72, but you got to go to about this angle before, and they can still just nick this, but now they can go through this. So this tank is not a side scraper. Keep that in mind. This is probably going to be more used like a medium tank. You can probably go to the medium flank with this and just screw over some medium tanks who go there, is what I think we're going to be using this tank for. Now, like I said, ignore these rate of fires. We don't know how fast they're going to be loading. I know I mentioned it, but that's okay. This thing, its view range drops down to 350, so it's not going to be spotting anything. Moving on to tier 8, now you get a big gun, a 122. Oh boy, oh yeah, this is also a 90 millimeter, not an 88. A 122, and this thing is a unique 122. It has 420 alpha. It has 218 pen, which we know is great. That's good. That's what they buffed the T-32 up to. Now that tank is really powerful. It's got almost 2,000 DPM, so we're finally getting pretty high. And if you get 100% crew in this, which you're gonna get pretty easily, you're gonna be over 2,000 without any equipment or food or consumables or anything at all, any crew skills whatsoever. You're gonna be over 2,000, so that's pretty nice. 4.72 rounds a minute. But remember, these are subject to change. Keep that in mind. These probably will change, depending how well they do on PC. Once again, you've got 34 rounds, which is really good, considering I think the IS-3 has like 30. But this thing has 4 extra rounds, does more alpha, so you're going to almost do 15,000 damage. Some good rolls. You get some good Russian rolls, you can do 15,000 damage in this tank. You're not going to do 15,000 damage in this tank. Keep that in mind. 2.7 seconds aim time is really good for a 122. Because you have to realize things like the IS-3 have, and the IS-3A especially, have like 3.1 seconds aim time or 3.3 seconds aim time. So this is really good. 0.3 accuracy is also really good. Once again, same gun elevation and gun depression. This thing goes 40 now. Its power to weight drops a little bit to about 14. But its on the move gun handling actually gets better, so that's nice. Keep that in mind. The traverse 30, not bad. I mean, you were 49, 37, 28. You get faster. So this tank is like turns fast. This one's kind of better for closer combat, definitely, from what I can see from the tier 7. Especially since you also have this armor. Does this armor work though? That is the question we're going to be finding out. You go up 20 meters, so that's pretty nice. 370. You can put optics on now, get the full view range if you have a good crew. But is this tank, good enough to keep and get a good crew on? Let's find out. We're going to look at its armor. As you can see, it's got a floating aura disc over it that protects it from all incoming artillery shells. As you can see, the artillery will hit this in the splash and not do any damage to the tank. So keep that in mind when you're playing this tank. There's things like that. Clearly, you guys can tell I'm joking. 80 millimeters of side armor is actually really nice. You can angle like look at this. This tank might actually be able to side scrape a little bit. Like if you come around the corner like this, you can still shoot this part, but it's a small shot. But as you can see, upper plate isn't the greatest. It'll still bounce some tier 7s and a lot of tier 6s. This thing looks like it might be pretty much a bully against lower tiers. And then, of course, you're using your gun depression, and you angle like this. The upper plate becomes really good, actually. This will bounce a lot of tanks. Lower plate doesn't look like it's a weak spot. No, it's not. It's better to shoot the upper plate, unless you're looking up at it like this. Yeah. Um, and the side armor, like I said, you can get away. It looks like if you angle like this as you're advancing at an enemy, is your best chance. I can't tell you what the armor is like. I can tell you it looks like what the mantlet is like. This is a good mantlet, as you can see, so... hopefully this means, and this looks like good shaping, a good shaped turret. Look at this. So hopefully this means the turret is going to be a good turret as well. So this looks like the first really good tank. I mean, this looks like a pretty good tank, in my opinion. It might be awful. And then this one also looks like a pretty good tank. I'd rather play almost any other medium tank than this thing, any other heavy tank than this thing. But this thing looks like it might be doing some good stuff, especially with that punchy gun. 420 Alpha is pretty nice. Moving up to tier 9, this thing looks like a gem. It's the 50 TP. I know we have a 50 TP prototype. This is the tier 9 version. The hull armor is exactly the same, but this thing gets a 130mm with 560 alpha, not the normal 490 that the Russians get. As you can see, this thing is getting the Russian guns, but they're packing a whole lot more damage. 2100 DPM is really nice, actually. 16 seconds reload. Seems like a long time, but like I said, this is actually pretty decent DPM for a tier 9 heavy. Aiming time 3 seconds. That's not terrible considering the caliber of the gun. 0.4 accuracy. That's not bad at all. I mean, it's gonna troll you, yes, but you're not gonna be sniping this tank, hopefully. 35 is fine. 13 power to weight is actually pretty good. I can't complain about that. Once again, the gun handling on the move gets a little bit better, so this aim time is actually going to be a little bit shorter than what it says compared to this, just because the circle never gets too much bigger. At least... Oh no, this is train resistance. I'm gone crazy. Never mind. The gun handling actually on the 53 TP is actually really good. Now that I'm looking at it on the move, this is actually pretty good. Compared to the other ones, that is. So this thing, for such a big gun on the tier 8, that's pretty nice. But the tier 9, actually this gets worse. So keep that in mind, definitely. Of course, 8 degrees, 20 degrees, normal stuff. And then, oh, potential damage, 30 rounds, almost 17,000 damage. So once again, plenty of ammo for such a big gun. You'll do fine with that. The train resistance gets better. My bad, not the gun handling. The train resistance gets better. So ignore what I said earlier. Hull armor 120, but the angling is insane. It's really good. And the turret 230 once again is rounded, so that'll be nice. And you get 380 meters view range. Once again, you can throw optics on, get the full view range with a good crew, and this looks like a tank I might want to keep. Maybe. We'll see, though. Let's get into here now. Of course, it's got this blaring weak spot, but you know what? It's actually still pretty good. It's this thick weak spot. It definitely is. You angle like this, and they hit this part, they'll bounce off, but then they can pen this part. And I like this about tanks. I think more tanks should have things like this. To keep them from being invincible. I know a lot of Russian tanks just don't have this kind of stuff, and you can just sit there, hold down, and be like, haha, pen me. And this also has cupolas, pretty weak cupolas you can go through. So this, to me, is like a balanced tank. It's defeatable armor. You can defeat it. Like, you can be a really good player in this, get into a position like this, use your gun depression, and look at this. Nothing can touch you. Nothing can touch you. You're safe. Right, from everything. They can't see your cupola or anything, but people can still go through this. You're gonna need some gold rounds if it's using its gun depression. Yes, you're gonna need to shoot some gold at it, but it's still defeatable. The player can still rock their tank like this, you know, and try to get you to make it miss, angle like this, rock back and forth like this, and make it really hard to hit. And it's still pretty solid. Like, you're gonna be aiming at here, and it's a really small shot, but it is defeatable armor, and I appreciate that. I do appreciate that, but this still looks like a really fun tank to use, regardless of this big weak spot. It's not even that weak when you look at it. It's thicker than the frontal plate. It's just angled nicely, and as you can see, the lower plate is a weak spot, even though it's the thickest part on the front of the tank, other than the turret. But it's flat, so that's what makes it weak. As you can see, like this, tier 8s will go through it. Tier 7s, premium rounds, are going to go through it. From the front. So this tank is very defeatable from the front if you know what you're doing, but it's also very usable from the front, and I like that. I like that a lot. Then we're going to jump up to the 60 TP, and the E100 is its competition. And on PC, I feel like this thing has taken the place of the E100. There's no reason to play the E100 anymore. Hopefully that won't be the case here. It's got better DPM, better rate of fire, of course, more millimeters of penetration on its standard rounds. It's got 1 more degree of gun depression right here, as you can see. Of course, this tank doesn't carry enough ammo to kill the entire enemy team, though it carries a lot. Actually, this still might be enough to kill the entire enemy team, but not the enemy team and then the next team after. 30 rounds is plenty, though it's not enough to be like the E100. When you're in the E100, you can go, you know, I go 16 AP, 16 heat, and 18 HE. You can get away with that. This you won't be able to do that. You'll have to be a little bit more conservative on the ammunition, maybe not take as many HE shells. So that's one downside to this tank, is the ammunition. Though, like I said, this is still plenty. You just won't be able to have as much fun like you can in the E100. Aim time is a little bit lower, and the on-the-move gun handling is a little bit less, but the standing still accuracy is a little bit better. So I guess that makes sense. I think that's a good balance. Give this tank the ability to snap shots in a little bit better, but give this one the ability to snipe a little bit better. That's fine. Once again, 1 more degree of gun depression. It goes 5 more kilometers an hour faster forwards, but it goes 1 slower than the E100. Keep that in mind. Better power to weight, but this thing just has a meaty engine, and this thing weighs a bazillion pounds and can just ram everything. Train resistance is almost identical to the E100. Almost. Hard is a little bit worse than the E100. Medium is a little bit better than the E100, and soft is, once again, a little bit worse than the E100. Just barely. Just barely. But, yeah, this thing has a better gun. This E100, should I say, has better gun. This isn't gun. This is its ground resistances. Like, actually, look at this. This is awful. Oof, oof. These ground resistances are not very good. This thing has a worse upper plate, worse side armor, worse rear armor, but that's the E100. It's a brick. And this is what they should have called the brick. Oh my gosh. Okay, moving on from that. Turret armor, 260. It's better than the E100s, and then the side is also the same, and the rear is a little bit worse. But this 260 is rounded, and it has 390 view range. Once again, throw optics on. It's great. It's not the 400 of the E100, which is great. It doesn't have track armor like the E100, and it doesn't have hit points like the E100. This thing has, 50 TP, has 2,000 hit points, in case you guys are wondering. This tank has 2,600 hit points, not the 2,700 of the E100. But let's take a quick look at its 3D model. What makes this better than the E100 is the turret. Look at this. You can't just load heat and just go through the turret. Like, you just face this front. These are insane numbers. Holy cow, my voice is cracking because of it. But look how weak this cupola is. That is weak. That's heshable. You can hesh that with your British mediums and heavies. That's pretty disgusting. Let's look at the upper plate. Upper plate is pretty good. That is a really fancy upper plate. But once again, it has this weak spot, which you can shoot. It is thicker than the rest of the tank, but it is it's at a bad angle. Ooh, turret ring. Oh boy, guys, weak turret ring. Weak turret ring. Look at that. You can pen this tank in the turret ring pretty easily. But then side scrape with this tank. Oh, it's actually not the greatest side scraper. That kind of is, actually, because of this part right here. Let's see if I can show you. You can come around the corner and show this part, and the shots will actually mostly bounce off. Definitely if you angle like this. Yeah, this is starting to look like not everything is modeled in correctly. But yeah, the armor looks pretty good on this tank from the front. Definitely better than the E100. It's not the upper plate, the weak spot, or the lower plate. But it's the turret and the gun depression. 8 degrees. Like, look at this. Actually, let's put it over the front real quick. Oh, that's not all of it. 8 degrees over the front. You're using 8 degrees of gun depression on this thing, and now look at the upper plate. Oh gosh, weak spot. Still a weak spot. Keep that in mind. When you're playing this tank or you're fighting this tank, you can still go through this even using gun depression. If you're in a tier 10 or shooting premium, you can still go through that. But it's the turret armor, which really makes or breaks this tank, and it's really good. From the side, if you're fighting this from the side, don't shoot the front half. Aim for the back half, right around here. Back of the turret, you'll have no problem. Don't aim too high. Actually, no, you'll have no problem as long as you don't hit right up here. This is no problem at all. In fact, you can hesh the back of this tank, unlike the E100 and your British mediums. Keep that in mind. And once again, this side, shoot the rear part around this area. Don't shoot the front part. And yeah, you'll go through this tank. No problem. Is it going to take the place of the E100? I think in the current state it will, but like I said, they're going to drop the reload less than 3 rounds a minute. It's going to probably be like a 21-second reload or a 22-second reload, so keep that in mind. You'll probably have to put food and gun rammer on this, and you'll probably get it down to like 18 seconds, unlike the 16 seconds you can get the E100 down to. So I think that's fair. I really do, and that'll keep the E100 at least on the podium somewhere. So that'll help, I think, definitely, and I think that's going to be a fair nerf. But these are the tanks that are coming tomorrow, and I will be playing through them. And let's get into some E100 action. I'm pulling out the E100, obviously, because it's the most comparable to the 60 TP, the prize at the end of the rainbow that we're all going to be going for. Not all of us, I'm sure. I'm definitely going for it. I'm excited about it. I didn't jump on the opportunity to grab the 705A. I'm still at the IS. It's kind of like a meh tank for me. Its playstyle doesn't look like something I would really like to get my hands on. But the 60 TP, on the other hand, having a good turret and decent gun depression, those are my 2 favorite things. Gun depression. This tank has gun depression. And then I'm going to jump on it. I love gun depression, guys. It's one of my favorite things in this game. But yeah, we're playing the E100. Not the greatest game. I don't think we even get any kills in this game. But decent damage. It is an ace tanker, and a couple things we can look at. And, of course, the Swamp. I hate Swamp. I really do. They tell you, oh, there's 2 flanks. Right flank, left flank. I disagree. It's center flank. Take the middle. Take the middle, win the game. It's that simple. I'm playing with Nightmare here. This is back before I left Nightmare. I'm still in Nightmare at this time. Playing with a good group of guys here. And they were like, oh, not this map. How do you play this map? I'm like, follow me. Don't worry. I know the way. And we wind up having a pretty good game with someone else in their E100. I forget who's in their E100. Is it Kyle? No, Kyle's in the Jagdpanzer E100. I think Stainless is in his Panzerkampfwagen 7. So who is... Oh, hello there. That was strange. I don't think he really noticed us. I don't think he was expecting... He's like, oh, I'm spotted, and I spotted a couple of heavy tanks. That's fine. But I don't think he realized where we were. He wasn't expecting us to go up the middle like this. But hello, we are coming up the middle. Nice to meet you, sir. We're going to put another shell into the side of his tank. Boom! Put it in, and he's tracked. And down he goes. Stainless Cub finishes him off. And yeah, we're taking the middle. This, in my opinion, is the best play on Swamp. Just take the middle, especially if you're top tier. You can just dominate from here, guys. It's a really, really good spot. Don't go up the hill on the right from where I am now, because they can shoot you from over where I'm looking about. But once you start getting cut in, get closer to this location, then you can start kind of going up, because then you kind of have a little bit more cover from the back of your tank. And that's what we're going to be doing here. I'm just checking my rear and making sure. As you can see, that Panther has no shots on us from where he is because of that rock back there. And so that's why we pulled all the way up here. Now we're going to put a nice meaty shell into this guy. Aim for the front of his tank because that's where his engine is, and you can set them on fire. We do, in fact, destroy his engine, but we don't set him on fire. That's okay, though. Hopefully we'll finish him off with this next shot, maybe. Perhaps. No, not quite. He does get away. And we're just going to sit here for a little while, kind of trying to figure out what we want to do next. This tank only has 7 degrees gun depression, so remember the tier 10 Polish is going to have 8 degrees of gun depression and a better turret. And so it's going to be able to do this play a little bit better, and of course the better power to weight, and the better top speed. It will be able to get into this position a whole lot faster. It just won't have as much DPM, though. As you can see, we're really not using our DPM. We fired, the only time we actually did use the DPM was against the T-62A. We fired, and the second we reloaded, we fired another shell into him. Other than that, I think the 50 TP, 60 TP will do everything I've done so far just fine. But you're going to see we're going to get into a situation where the 60 TP would have fallen apart and the E100 still reigns king. It's still going to reign king for me. I don't think I'm going to lose any kind of loyalty to the E100 because of the 60 TP. I still think I'm going to like the E100 a little bit more because it's just solid. You can just use its armor. It doesn't matter. Oh, you get caught out in the open. It's okay. We're going to put a shell once again in the front of this tank because that's where his engine is, or his fuel tanks, and we do set him on fire briefly. He does have an automatic fire extinguisher, but we still get a nice fire, which is good. So if he gets set on fire again, we'll get him. And we're going to be aiming up a shot at him. We're going to be quick because he's aiming at us. But he doesn't have much of a shot. There he is. We're going to put a shell into his tracks. Going to try to damage him at the same time. The shell goes low and we only track him and we don't do damage. But that is okay because the very next shell that hits him, actually, very next 2 shells at him do set him on fire. And because he's tracked, we get all of him. So we get full 2,000 damage out of that guy, which is pretty nice. And as you can see, this is why I like making this play. We bounced the Gorilla 15 off of our upper plate. At that angle, if I was in the 60 TP, he would have definitely gone in, and we would have lost 750 health. For sure we would have. There's the E100 there. We're going to be able to put a shot into him. No, we're not. We don't quite have the reload for it, which means this 60 TP definitely would not have the reload. And now we're going to go around this corner and put a shot on him. Right here, the 60 TP would be able to do that better because he would have been faster, but we were still barely fast enough and we were able to get a shell in. 57 Heavy comes around the corner, bounces off of us there, and then he's going to track us. And this, once again, is where this tank comes into effect. If I'm in a 60 TP, he is going to be penetrating more of those shots, and he bounces off of us again, and we put a shell into him. Unfortunately, we roll low, but he does get finished off. Once again, like I said, those 3 shells may have all penetrated us in the 60 TP. He's looking down on us. He can go through our upper plate at that angle. E100 on our right, we're not going to put a shell into him. Instead, we're going to put a shell in this T110E4. He's kind of overextended himself. Going to put a shell in. We were going to track him, but then he pulled forward right before he fired, and he bounces off of our side once again. I think 60 TP would have been penned there. I don't think all of these would have penned, but I still think we would be probably at about 1,000 hit points right now. I mean, if all of these penned, we would be dead in the 60 TP, but I don't think they all would have penned, but I'd still feel we'd be about under 1,000 hit points, and then that would make us, you know, we would be in danger of getting killed by this Death Star. Right now, we can take a full pen from the Death Star and be perfectly fine, but there's a Gorilla up here as well, and yeah, this tank is still solid. If you know how to use this tank, it's a solid tank. We've been fighting tank destroyers this entire time, and they haven't penned us. Put a shell into the back of the Gorilla 15. Now we're going to be able to put a shell into this Death Star. Our team is rolling up on him. Are we going to be able to get one more shot? Maybe. Come on, one more shot. We're still reloading. It's going to be close. It's going to be really close. He's going to takes a hit there, and unfortunately he gets finished off by the Gorilla 15, so we don't get another hit. But as you can see, we definitely would not have been able to finish the reload if we were in the 60 TP because of the nerf they plan to give it. Its rate of fire. So once again, E100 was the better tank for that situation. So I think this nerf is a good nerf. I think it makes it so that the E100 is still better in a lot of situations. And as you can see, we make 107,000 credits with our premium account, and we had no money ops on. This tank still makes a lot of money, especially shooting standard. We do about 8,000 combined damage, and I think that's why we get all the money, where we get all the money from, and that really helps. 3,000 damage blocked, but they were all high caliber, so we didn't quite get the steel wall because we didn't get hit enough. And that's going to be it for today, guys. Saturday the 22nd at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be having a live stream with Spartan Elite. He'll be joining me. I'll be the one streaming it. He'll just be recording it. But we're going to have some fun. Hopefully you guys will join us as well. And we're going to have some training rooms open 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be a Christmas stream. It's not on Christmas, but it's going to be the 22nd of December, 5 p.m. Saturday. Come, have some fun. Speaking of which, go check out Spartan Elite's YouTube channel. Go subscribe to him. Also, go check out GotADingy. Oh, we're with Jay and Silent Boom. That makes sense. Go check out GotADingy's YouTube channel. Go check out Space Bandit's YouTube channel. Links in the description below. And I will see you guys all later. Take care, and peace out.